Welcome to the Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs podcast, a place for podcasters to learn what's actually working in the world of podcasting and how to use their podcast to generate consistent leads in their business. I'm your host, Jenny, and I'm so excited you're here.
Hey, Savvies, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. If you haven't noticed, it's been quite a while since I put out a new episode, but that is for a good reason. And the reason is that I am pregnant with baby number 2, and I have been so sick during my first trimester. The sickness this time around has been much worse than my first pregnancy, and I've basically been in survival mode for the past month and a half, 2 months. So yeah, I'm now 13 weeks, almost 14 weeks. So that means I am in my second trimester of pregnancy, and I'm finally starting to feel much better. Some days are better than others, I will say. So I should be back to my regular Thursday release schedule from here on out. So thanks for sticking with me through this very unpredictable release schedule. I hate missing weeks, but it was really needed. Something had to give. So it really means the world to me that you're still here and listening. And yeah, excuse my kind of congested voice. My allergies are crazy right now. And of course, with pregnancy, you try to limit the amount of medication that you're taking. So I'm just kind of dealing with it and rolling with the punches. But yeah, so that's a little quick update on me and what's going on with me. But before we dive in, I did want to let you know that the free Pitch Like a Pro challenge is coming back, and it's going to be happening next week from May 16th through May 18th. So make sure to go sign up for it by going to savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com/pitch-like-a-pro-challenge. And it would be easier if you just headed to the link in the show notes to sign up today. So just go to the description of this episode, grab the link there. So much easier than having to type that in manually, but I did want to mention it there in case you wanted to. So yeah, let's jump into today's episode all about how to market your podcast episodes. So first up, you can, I'm sure as you already know this, you can promote your episodes on social media. And I want to say, don't be afraid to try a variety of different tactics when it comes to posting on social media, utilizing audiograms and video clips from your episodes, sharing quotes or other memorable statements from your episodes. This is really your chance to get creative with it because you want something that really captivates the person that is looking at the post on social media. So make it fun, be creative with it, make it intriguing. And I think it's really important to find which platforms make the most sense for your audience, because your ideal audience might be on Instagram or they might be big on LinkedIn. Each platform has its own quirks. So figure out which platform your audience is on and what platform you want to focus on and stick to it. That'll give you the best results. I personally enjoy Instagram because there's a mix of short form video and static posts and all that. So you can really mix things up and not have to worry about always doing video like you would on something like TikTok. So just find what works for you and stick with it. But social media can be really powerful in helping you get more people to your show. The next one is Pinterest. And I know Pinterest technically gets lumped in as social media a lot, but in my opinion, it is not really a social media because there's not really much social about it. It is more of a search engine. And it is really one of my secret weapons when it comes to marketing your podcast. And I will caveat this by saying not every podcast really makes sense for Pinterest. Some just make zero sense. If you have, a primarily male audience, probably not going to be the best on Pinterest. But if yours makes sense for Pinterest, then Pinterest is really a hidden gem that I highly recommend checking out. I have a couple episodes about Pinterest that I will link in the show notes for you guys to go check out if you want to learn more about Pinterest. But Pinterest is just a really great platform for you if you have a female-based audience. So highly recommend Pinterest if that is you. Like I said, I'll leave those episodes in the description so you guys can go check them out and learn more about Pinterest and see if it's going to be a good fit for you and your show. Next up, having guests on your show. So this one I want you to take with a grain of salt because it is no guarantee that every podcast guest that you have will bring you more listeners. However, your guests, when they promote their episodes to their audience, you have a much better chance of growing your downloads because your show is getting in front of more people than it typically would with just solo episodes. So having guests can be a great way to bring more listeners, but it's not the only way I would rely on for sure. Next up, utilize video podcasting. So over the past several years, video has been on the rise across the board, and that's no exception when it comes to podcasting. I highly, highly recommend recording both audio and video for your episodes. Even if you're not planning on immediately utilizing that video, it's super nice to be able to go back and pull clips from previous episodes for social media, and that helps promote them. So I definitely recommend recording video as soon as you possibly can if you're not already, even if you're just using it to pull clips, because even if you're not releasing the whole raw footage or editing the footage in any way for YouTube or anything, having those clips is really helpful for social media usage because audiograms just aren't getting the same reach that they did in the past. All right, next up, you want to have SEO optimized show notes on your website. So having SEO optimized show notes on your website can be a total game changer for getting new listeners to your show who may have not found you otherwise. Unfortunately, podcast SEO within like Apple Podcast or Spotify and all the other podcasting apps isn't quite there yet in terms of searchability. Like you can search, but the functionality isn't that great. So you're much better off focusing on optimizing your show notes on your website and getting traffic from search engines like Google instead to your website versus like trying to optimize it for podcast players, which you can do. And I highly recommend still doing, but just don't expect as great of results as focusing on your own website SEO. The second to last thing is doing ad swaps with other podcasters. So this actually isn't something I've personally explored yet, but I've heard from many others that they have had a lot of success from doing this. And essentially what this is that you and someone with a similar podcast, but not completely identical podcast, pair up to do an ad swap, and you'll run an ad segment about their show on yours, and they'll run one about your show on theirs, and it'll kind of like bring different listeners to your show based on that. So definitely a fun little way to get more listeners. And then lastly, we have my all-time favorite way to grow your podcast, which is by guesting on other people's podcasts. So if you want to learn how to be a guest on other podcasts, make sure to sign up for my free 3-day Pitch Like a Pro challenge. The link is in the show notes, so you can easily sign up for it. But just to me, it's the best way. You are talking to them on someone else's podcast. It's so easy to lead them back to your podcast because they are staying in app. They don't have to go to Instagram or anywhere else to follow you. They can just go straight over from that one show that you're on to your show. And it's just amazing. But I would love to know, what is your current favorite way to market your podcast? Let me know over on Instagram. My handle is Podcasting for Entrepreneurs. It's always fun chatting with you guys in the DMs. It's great to know who's listening, who's learning, and it's just fun to talk to you guys. So let's go chat over there. But that is it for today's episode. If you want to check out the show notes for this episode, go to savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com, and I will see you in the next episode.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Stitcher, and leave a review. You can find us at savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com and on Facebook at Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs and Instagram at Savvy Podcasting. Make sure to join our free Facebook community for podcasters by going to savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com/community and join in on the exclusive community just for Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs listeners. I'll see you there.